Hello and welcome. I wanted to do a brief video on shadow work because somebody had asked about it in the comment section a little while ago. And I think it's really important to talk about shadow work and to sort of demystify it in a sense, because we use this term shadow work. It sounds so fancy. It sounds so elusive, so mysterious. And I feel like a lot of times people talk about it and they don't even really understand what it is, right? It's just like this funny catchword that gets thrown around the spiritual community a lot, right? But what really is shadow work? Shadow work is essentially healing work. It is more specifically the healing that we do through bringing the unconscious into the conscious. So this is working with those aspects of our psyche, those aspects of our being that are generally hidden from view. Carl Jung has a really great quote that I love. It's my absolute favorite, maybe my favorite quote of all time. And it says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will dictate your life and you will call it fate." So the unconscious, our subconscious mind, is 95% of our mental capacity. 95% of what's going on within our brains is going on the subconscious level. Some of this is running sort of the background programs, so to speak, that are causing us to breathe, that are regulating all of our body systems. And a lot of it too is the programming through the belief systems, the truths that we have essentially recorded within our minds, within our energy systems, essentially about the truth about reality. And we learn this throughout the first 7 years of our lives. During the first 7 years of our lives, we are essentially in a constant theta brainwave, which means that theta is the brainwave or one of the brainwaves of the subconscious. So this means we're essentially like just downloading everything from our environment. And what we're experiencing in those first 7 years is creating the programs that will then subconsciously dictate the rest of our lives until we decide to work on them, to begin to access them. It can be tricky to access what's in our subconscious because it is subconscious. It's below or beyond the conscious level of awareness. Our dreams can be indicators to our subconscious, to what's going on in those realms. I think this is why Carl Jung was so interested in dreams, perhaps, and a lot of psychiatrists, a lot of people within this field, right? Because they are an echo. I believe that dreams are many things. Some dreams are premonitions. Some of them are us experiencing a different timeline, a different dimension, a different reality. And some of them are simply our subconscious, our brain working through the issues and the things going on throughout our lives, the stresses that we're experiencing, trying to sort it all out, sort out all of the experiences as well, just that we've had throughout the day. So there's a lot of different things going on as we're dreaming, but it definitely is a key or a clue into the subconscious. You can imagine that a lot of these belief systems, a lot of the programming that's dictating your reality is locked away in your brain. And when we access the theta brainwave, it's essentially like getting the key that unlocks the door to the vault, essentially, of our minds. And when we are accessing our brains on that theta brainwave, this is when we're able to begin rewiring and reprogramming them. So we do this through meditation. We do this through subliminal messaging, right? If we find a reliable source for that, we want to be really careful with that. And we want to be careful with anyone who's accessing our minds on the subconscious level. So this is why hypnosis, you want to be real careful who you're allowing to hypnotize you, because they're taking you to that theta brainwave. They're accessing the programming, and they can essentially delete and install programs while they're in there. You or people you trust explicitly should be the only people accessing and deleting programs within your subconscious mind. But it's really powerful when we can get to this state. Now, not all shadow work has to do with reprogramming the subconscious mind. But it does have to do with looking at the stuff that we've buried, looking at the stuff that we're not typically consciously aware of. So some forms of shadow work have to do with recognizing our triggers, beginning to understand what's underneath that trigger, right? And a lot of this ties back into itself because a lot of these triggers tie into beliefs. They also tie into traumas. Some of this is from this life. Some of this is from other lives. This is what makes it really fascinating as we continue to kind of go down this spiral. So we're looking at all of that. We're becoming aware of all of that. We're becoming aware of when somebody or something triggers us. We're starting to take responsibility for that energy instead of projecting and saying, that's their problem. Can't believe they made me feel that way. I can't believe they did that or they said that. It's about, oh, that's interesting that I'm having that reaction within me to that. Where does that come from? What could that be rooted in? And just being willing to explore is really a great first step to shadow work. Is just being willing to explore the depths of our own psyche, being willing to explore our triggers, being willing to explore our wounds, to explore our patterns, to recognize the repeating patterns in our lives. Shadow work is how we access the karmic patterns and we clear the karma. Because that's all going on under the surface, but we see it reflected in the outer circumstances of our lives. If I see a pattern repeating in my life, whether this is an emotional pattern, a physical pattern, a relational pattern, I know that there is something going on, something karmic going on here. There's also a belief system. There's some sort of subconscious program that keeps recreating this. There's some type of signature imprint within my energy field that is continuing to draw this in to recreate this. So we become willing and ready to explore all of that. Doing meditation can be shadow work. Keeping a dream journal can be shadow work, like we said. Keeping a journal of when we're triggered, recognizing that can be shadow work. There's so many different ways that we can do shadow work. Hypnosis can absolutely be shadow work. Like I said, you want to be real careful who you're doing that with. That is something that I offer. If people are interested and you do resonate with my energy, I take that very seriously, that offering, because I know how powerful it is when you're working with people in these theta brainwave states. If you want to get yourself into a theta brainwave state, all you have to do is start imagining, start daydreaming, start employing your senses in your daydream. Right? Like if you're imagining a fire, start thinking about the warmth of it, how it feels, how it sounds when it crackles, how it dances. As you start engaging all of your senses with your third eye, you naturally bring yourself into a theta brainwave, into a hypnotic brainwave. So you can utilize this to begin accessing your subconscious during meditation. Set a very clear intention of what you're wanting to do. Set your shields. Anytime you're going into these altered brainwaves, these altered states of consciousness, you want to set up your I am love light shield, right? I invoke the I am love light in me. Saying this 3 times, imagining that beautiful aura of energy around you. Placing your Merkaba, right? Your 8-pointed star, 8, 10, 12 points, however many points. It's a process. It's an unfoldment. Just like everything. You don't want to go too deep into all of this. Some people, it's like they get stuck in shadow work where all they're doing is examining their deepest motivations. They're just like their traumas, right? Where is the root of this, right? Where's the root of that? Digging deeper and deeper. And they just end up reliving their trauma and reliving these energies over and over again. They get stuck in these loops. We don't want to do that. We want to get to the root of it. We want to see it. We want to feel it. We want to release it. All right? We want to forgive, practice forgiveness where anything needs to be forgiven. We want to internalize the lesson and we want to release the contract. We want to let it go. We don't want to stay caught up in that cycle. We don't want to analyze and overanalyze. It's more about awareness, feeling, observation, releasing. Right? We don't need to get stuck in the wheel of mental masturbation around this stuff. That's where we start getting in trouble with shadow work. And we want to lighten it up sometimes too. Go deep within, find some stuff, find some core wounds. Then take, what are the actions that I can take to begin healing this wound? right? If we find that there's a core wound of abandonment and of not feeling good enough, what actions can I take to make myself feel better? And by better, I don't mean putting a Band-Aid over it. I mean to make myself feel worthy, to reinforce that I am worthy. That's part of the healing work too. It's not all about the shadow work. It's not all about, once we dig deep, then it's about the positive reinforcement, the things that we can do to strengthen ourselves, to bring that healing, to bring that love and compassion in. And that's another thing that Spirit wants to highlight as well, is the importance of love and compassion when you're doing shadow work. If you are in a place where you cannot find compassion for yourself, where you're feeling very judgmental of yourself, it's a lot of shame in yourself, putting yourself down, that's not a good place to begin doing this work from. Because we're going to stumble upon a lot of things that do make us feel shameful. We're going to stumble upon the things that we've hidden, that we've buried away because they were too painful to look at, because they made us feel unlovable, because they made us feel unworthy, right? And of course, the deeper we shove it down, the more profoundly it impacts us, whether we recognize it or not. However, we don't want to unearth all of that if we can't do it from a loving place. So if you are in that place of extreme self-judgment, self-deprecation, what Spirit's saying is work on some of those loving energies first. How can I be gentler with myself? How can I be more loving with myself? Start cultivating that energy before you start digging deeper. That will go a long way. And a lot of people, it's important to have, we really don't emphasize this in the spiritual community, but it's important to have a support system when you start doing this shadow work, when you start doing this deep work within the subconscious, the unconscious, within these healing these traumas, addressing these traumas, whether this is a licensed therapist, whether this is somebody that you trust and appreciate and respect deeply, who has that same trust and respect for you, who can be a support system, whether this is a whole community. Honestly, that's ideal. I mean, not everybody has those things, but if you do have them, use them. If not, find an online community. This community is here to love and support you. All right, go ahead and join this community. Go ahead and join the Patreon. Go ahead and join. There's so many ways that we can stay deeper, more deeply connected. You can work one-on-one with me. Find somebody who has gone through this process who can help take you through it without judgment. Right? That non-judgmental aspect is critical, especially for somebody. It's so funny. That's kind of like a play on words, right? I said non-judgment is critical. Some of you will get that and laugh along with me. But it's crucial. All right, we'll put it that way. To find somebody who is non-judgmental, especially if you are feeling judgmental of yourself. All right. And I'm not saying that don't have any self-judgment, you can't start doing shadow work until you have zero self-judgment. Very few of us ever get there, right? But start cultivating an ability to be gentle with yourself. That's what I want, that's what we're looking for here. That ability to be compassionate towards yourself. A little bit of self-compassion goes a really long way, because the ultimate goal of shadow work, yes, it's clearing the density, it's clearing that negative programming, right? Reprogramming the subconscious mind. It's raising our frequency and our vibration, but it's self-love and self-acceptance. All right. Looking into the deepest, darkest corners of who you are, right? Because none of this is who you are. It's all the conditioning placed on top. It's all the falsities, the illusions placed on top of the truth and the beauty of who you are, which is beautiful, pure, infinite energy, innocent energy. What was I saying? I don't even remember what I was saying now, because I took a moment to feel the beauty of the truth of who we all are. And it totally distracted me from what we were talking about. Ask your higher self to help you tap into the beauty, the purity of who you are. Let that be your beginning for any shadow work that you do. Center in your heart, breathe into your heart space. Ask your higher self to connect you to the beauty and the purity of who you are. And remember, as you're uncovering all this stuff, this is all like layers of illusion placed on top of the truth and the beauty of who you are. So just remember that. It's really important when you're doing shadow work to be able and willing to release the stories, understanding that every experience you've had is just a story. And the more you tell that story, the more you identify with it, the more it traps you, the more it places you in a box. It confines you. So it's being willing to release that, to let that go. It's being willing to forgive. All right. And it's this energy of developing the skill of being the observer. And so Spirit's saying another great way to pretend yourself for beginning to do shadow work is to start meditating and to practice the energy of being the observer of your own thoughts. As you begin to observe your own thoughts, you begin to understand that if you can observe your thoughts, then that must mean that you are not the thought itself. You are the observer of the thought. And this helps you detach from your thoughts and realize that your thoughts aren't your truth. They aren't who you are. They're just running through the mind, right? You are that consciousness that is now cultivating the ability to observe those thoughts, which is just the mental programming running in its loops, right? The programs running on repeat. They're like records that play constantly. It's like a playlist of all the same thoughts that run through our heads all the time. It's like 85% of the thoughts we think every single day. All right, so let that sink in. But they're just thoughts. They're not who you are. Just like the traumas, the things you've been through, those are just experiences. Those aren't who you are either. They were tools that who you are chose in order to learn. But we don't learn through repeating the same thing again and again. We learn through internalizing that, implying the wisdom gained from that experience to the next one so that we can have a different experience. That's the ultimate goal here. But it's okay wherever we are along that journey is okay. Remember, it's about not shaming ourselves, but learning to be that observer. So when you start accessing these patterns, this programming, these traumas, this conditioning, you can access it as the observer, which allows you to be more detached so that you're not personalizing it. So that you're not saying, oh, that makes me a bad person. Or, oh, that's, you know what I mean? It's like when you're too attached to it, it's hard to let it go, right? Because what is attachment? It's the opposite of surrender. So just observe it. Let it filter through. I keep being drawn to the eye. Oh, you can't see it. I'm not pointing. I was just pointing at the camera right there. There we go. This eye right here, as we're talking about this energy of being the observer. All right. So learn to be the observer, observing from a place of compassion, knowing that you are another soul having a journey, just like every soul before you and every soul after you. When we start doing the shadow work, we're able to start shifting that journey into something that is more palatable, more enjoyable, because we're accessing the levels of consciousness that are actually creating our reality. All right, I love you guys. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, let me know. I can do more videos on different topics like this if it is something that intrigues you and interests you. And I hope that, I can't remember who it was that requested this video, but I hope that you find it and you enjoy it. I'll talk to you all soon. And like I said, if you want any one-on-one help with any of this, reach out to me. All of my information is in the description box below.